It's Golden Hour Adventure Time, featuring everyday people doing extraordinary things. From the peaks of victory to the valleys of defeat, these are their stories. Now, from the back of the pack, your hosts, Justin and Robbie.
Welcome to Golden Hour Adventures. Justin, how's it going?
It's going good, man. How are you?
You know, it's been a week, but I'm still here.
Yeah. I'm still here in Alabama, so I'm here for another week. Next weekend, I'll be back in the frozen tundra, so I'm looking forward to getting back onto some icy trails and putting a jacket on for once.
Getting out of that humidity.
Oh my gosh, today's run, I did 8 miles on trails, and I did a video just to show, because I was just so amazed. My entire shirt was soaked. It even ran down into my shorts, and all sides of my shorts were soaked. I was like, what the heck? My socks were wet. I was like, what is happening here? It was insane.
It's almost winter. It's November and you're still...
I know. It was like an hour and a half run, and it was just I was drenched, and I was like, what is going on? I was like, I need to get out of here.
Next week, you're going to be like, I need to figure out how to layer and...
Yeah, I'm going to have to remember how to layer myself, because... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to remember that. Alaska, I think it's going to be close to zero, maybe even tipping into the negatives when I get back. So, yeah, going for one extreme, because it's in the 80s here in Alabama, and then going back. As you're listening to this, I've been back into Alaska for a month now, but but it's me in the past talking to me in the future, and however that works on podcast land.
Yeah, we always forget about when we have the conversation, then when they come out, we're like...
How's your training going?
It's a lack of right now.
I've actually had a pretty good block. I set a goal for you that don't know. I'm in the Senior Non-Commissioned Officer Academy right now, and it's a 5-week course, and I set a goal to run 200 miles while I was here. Not really training for anything, so I just was like, you know what, I'll just run some extra miles. And I'm going to hit 250, so I was pretty impressed with myself.
You should be. You
Threw a little ultra in there too. But I'm going back home, and I'm taking a recovery couple months. My body needs it, so I'm definitely going to take 2 days off a week. I know that's wild, taking 2 days off as an ultra runner. That's a crazy thing, but I'm going to take 2 days off. I'm going to cycle 1 day a week. Peloton, not actual cycle. That would be a disaster, but yeah, cycle 1 day a week, 2 days of rest, just give my body a proper recovery before I start spinning things back up for Cowboy.
Nice. Well, today's guest is James Howton. He was recommended by a former guest, Mike Bent. I actually met James last year at Wasatch when we were going to Pace Mike. We got to eat dinner together. And Mike gives us a lot of, he listens every week. He's one of the one.
I say he might be 5, because it's my mom and my grandma and your mom, and I'm sure you have one other person that listens to it. So Mike's a loyal to number 5.
Yeah. Mike was like, you got to get James on. I'm like, okay. Mike, I need his contact, and we hooked it up, and here we are. Welcome to the podcast, James.
Thanks, guys.
So, James, we were talking a little bit about a little before we started, and you've run 1,500-mile races. So, how did you get into running?
Hey, 1 second before we get down this crazy. Robbie just said 15 100-mile races, not a 1,500-mile race.
Did I say 1,500?
Well, it kind of came off like that. I was thinking I was in the initial conversation when we were talking to him, but when you just said that, I was like, dang, he ran a 1,500-mile race. That's awesome. And then
I guess I was like,
oh no, it's 15.
I guess he's got 15. He's got 1,500 miles at least.
Yeah, exactly.
My brain's not ticking right today.
Either's mine. So
sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to clarify for somebody else that might be like, dang, he ran a 1,500-mile race.
Yeah,
did you still run
got
it?
that clarified.
Not saying you couldn't do it, but
so yeah, I got into it through, basically joined the military. You have to run. when I first got into it, I hated running, but that got me into it. And then it was like probably a year later, my dad was like, "Hey, I'm going to run a marathon." And I was like, well, I didn't even know how far the marathon was. And he's like, 26.2. And I was like, all right, we'll go do it. So I think it was like in 1998, I did the Pensacola Marathon, and it kind of just snowballed from there. I started my career just doing marathons. And I think I probably did 50 marathons before I got into trail running. And it wasn't until I moved out to Virginia that I discovered trail running. So kind of how it got started.
What branch of the military were you in?
Air Force.
Nice. How long did you serve?
20.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm at 18, so here we go.
You're right there. You can see the
I'm
light.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. I got a 2-year service commitment because I just put on a new rank. So
yeah,
after that, we'll see what happens. But
right,
more than likely going to be pulling the plug.
Yeah, I get it.
Then I can grow sweet hair like what you got, but
right.
I won't be able to. But we'll.
Yeah, you might be able. I don't know. Can you do a party in the back?
Yeah, I tell my wife all the time I'm going to grow a skullet, so it's just like bald on top and then the long hair in the back, and I'll just wear a hat all the time, and then
nice.
Just be completely embarrassing when I take it off. But I'm going to grow the big mustache. I think that's my thing. I'm just going to make the mustache look real gnarly. But yeah, thanks for your service, man.
Yeah, no, thank you too.
So you moved to Virginia, started trail running. What was that experience going from, the road to the trail in the beginning?
It was awesome to find a community that, you go do marathons and it's not really a community type atmosphere. And, they had this tight trail community there, and they did all kind of races and, just learned a lot on, courses and stuff like that, and just how to run trails. I think that takes a minute too, especially going from the road to trail. You got to pick up your feet. So
especially I probably imagine Virginia's got some rough stuff and some roots.
Yes, very. Now I'm out here at Utah, and it's totally different. But yeah, it's definitely rooty, and there were a lot of rocks too, surprisingly. So a lot of foliage. You don't get it out here much in the high desert.
I've never ran what they call the Beast Coast trails, but I always hear about them, and they're just like, there's no switchbacks. They're just straight up and just brutal.
Right.
Is that true?
I'd say that's accurate.
Like they don't have like big mountains to get. I mean, there's mountains out there, but not, comparatively to like Colorado and Utah and those type stuff. But like the vert just goes straight up and straight back down. And so,
right.
Never ending and non-forgiving.
Yeah, it's a different beast. For me, originally I'm from Florida, so it just seems like living out here in Utah. I've been out here 14 years, and altitude still messes with me. And I don't know if that's just, just my body. It just seems like once I get to 8,000 feet, it's like, my stomach, everything starts to get funny. Yeah, so, climbing out there was, not easier, but at least you could get a full breath of air. So.
One thing I can say about, Utah trails growing up there, Utah's a little different than other states. There is a lot of trails that just go straight up.
Right.
And I've asked this question before, and no one really ever has a good answer. Because, living in Colorado for a while, everything switchbacks. Hardly any trails go straight up. But I remember I was big into mountain biking when I lived in Utah, and I'm like, that thing just goes straight up. There's no switchbacks. Then, once I started to trail run and I went back and visit, there's that grander peak, and
right.
I mean, it's just straight up. I mean, there's no switchbacks.
Yeah, you can find them here. There's another one that's popular kind of in the northern Utah area, Ogden area, called Malin's Peak, and it's kind of like the grander. It's not as long, but it's definitely as steep. So you can find them for sure.
I remember the first time I did Speed Goat, there was this little section, and it was kind of off trail, and you just went up you just found your way up. There was flags, and you just,
I know exactly.
I oh, what's it called? Is it Little Baldy?
Yeah, Baldy. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, Baldy. And I remember it's like 1 foot, 2 feet, 2 feet go back. And I don't know how people ran it. I wasn't up front enough to see if anyone could run it.
Right.
But you get like halfway up and you have to stop. You're just so out of breath.
Yeah.
And you look down and it's like if you fell, you just roll all the way to the bottom of the hill. It's that steep.
Easily. And you get to it. And I mean, it's so ridiculous. Like I thought, am I lost? If there weren't other people going up in flags, I would think that I was off course. It was insane the first time I did it. I've grown to love and hate that race. I've done it probably 4 times, so I just keep going back for more. But yeah, that section is something else.
Have you done it now that it's under UTMB?
I have, yeah. It's a bigger. The first year UTMB took it over, I was very disappointed. I mean, they had stuff like Gatorade, and just with all the other hydration companies that are out there these days, and even ones that are local to Utah, I was pretty not impressed. But now, like this last year, I did it again, and I mean, they really got things together. I mean, it'll be sad once Carl finally breaks away from it, but yeah, I mean, it's not bad now. Definitely different feel, not as local, I guess.
Yeah, we've had a few other people on that have run it since before and now with UTMB, and a lot of them had the same thoughts. It's with UTMB and some of these other bigger races taking over other races and growing their races, it's bound to happen.
Right.
When I was in Colorado and got to witness what Lifetime did with Leadville, I mean, it was the same type of thing the first year. It was like,
yeah, I heard it was a mess.
It was a horrible mess, running out of food, water, and too many people on the course. But it was that same thing where they didn't have the food that we're all used to in the ultra world, trail world.
Right.
It was just, you go up to it and there's like Oreos, M&Ms, potato chips, the normal stuff, right? But any of the other stuff that you expect, no, they didn't
Not
have
there.
it. And it was just like, and people that have ran Leadville more than once, they're like, sometimes we plan off knowing that stuff could be at the aid stations for plan B or C or whatever in our nutrition, and it just wasn't there. And to run out of water too, that's another story. But so what was Virginia, you start trail running? Was that where your first ultra was, or was it somewhere else?
Well, it was kind of in that area, and it's funny that we're talking about trails, but actually my first 50K was a road ultra in some small town in North Carolina. And yeah, that was, it was, I think it just fit into the schedule of the year. I'd just done a marathon and I was like, running a road ultra didn't seem that far of a stretch. But yeah, so that was basically my first one.
Were you still in the marathon world then, and were you like transitioning at that point?
Yeah, I would say I was still heavily into it, but that was like, once I hit that, then it was like, then someone told me, oh, there's a 50 miler, and this one was on trails, and that one, I mean, that's probably when I did my first 50, that's really when I got the bug. That's when I was like, I really think I like this craziness. So
it's funny. We've had so many conversations, and we had one guy on here, and I don't remember what his farthest distance was, but he lives in Utah too. You might know him. God, I can't remember his name. And he just jumped into the Antelope 50 miler. What was the distance? Do you remember, Justin? Like 8 or 9 miles or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. And then he jumped right straight to a 50.
Dang.
And crushed it.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, there are guys that are brave like that. I was not that brave at first.
So tell us a little bit about, your progression. You went 50K, 50 miler. Did you do 100K after that?
Yeah, did a 100K. It was like in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and that actually got you like, I was running 8 hours, then you get to like 13 hours, and it's like, hey, you got to use a light, start delving into like kind of running at night and kind of transitioning. So then I was like, this is was kind of cool. You get to run at night, and then bam, I don't even think, because 2006 was the first time I did my first 100. It was the Rocky Raccoon. And I don't even know if ultra sign up was a thing. I can't even tell you how I signed up, how I got into it, if I did it through their website at the time or not. But yeah, so the next thing you know, I'm flying to Houston and doing the Rocky Raccoon.
That's a cool race.
Yeah, that one, I mean, I didn't really know any other hundreds at that point, but it was just cool kind of doing the loops. I know that's not for everybody, but for me, as a first one, I mean, I recommend anybody like Rocky Raccoon for your first one. It's cool. And I mean, there was guys like it blew my mind. I think the winner getting like 12 hours. I'm pretty sure he lapped me twice. It was amazing.
I did that one, and Zach Bitter was out there running, and it just like, I think I wasn't even done with my third lap when he passed me to finish, and I'm just like, well, yep, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, you hear the cheers, it's funny. You can hear the cheers and you're like, oh man, that guy's done. And I'm like, I got like 40 more miles to go. So
And that was kind of like at Bandera this year when we took out for your second loop, and we were like, what, 3 or 4 miles in, and we hear the guy coming into the finish.
Yeah, we were like 35 miles in, and this dude's he's winning it. And I'm like, what? Ow. That's insane. Like 720 or something stupid like that.
And it is true. I mean, I've been in this for 20 years, and it seems like the talent, the people are just getting faster and faster. And like what people can do is just, I mean, we're not even at the top yet, or the plateau or whatnot. So
what do you think in your 20 years of experience in ultra running, what do you think that is the contributing factor to that?
I'd have to say nutrition. It's got to be. I mean, when I started it, I just said I don't like Gatorade, but that's all we had, and maybe some power bars, power gels were the leading thing. And I don't even know, do they even sell that? I don't even think I can't find it. So, but yeah, I'd say it's nutrition is the number one thing. And just, I think they're training smarter. Yeah.
I've, I started running in 2010, right before the kind of boom, and you've got, 4 years on that before it got, but I'm sure you remember the time with, Anton and all those people and Tim Olson and all that. And, those guys were just, looking at Anton's training weekly mileage was just crazy. I mean, I guess at that level, and you have all that free time to run whatever his 200-mile weeks he was doing. But now we've seen people dial it back and start to train smarter. And I wouldn't say so much like, basing it off of the type of like marathon training, people just dialing back. And, when I first got into it, it was, if you weren't running 100 miles a week, good luck on your 100.
Right.
And I had a family, and it was like, there's no way that I could spend that amount of time, full-time job, all that stuff, out on the trail. And we've watched a lot of these guys just burn out and disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be interesting to see where the next 5-6 years take us with these guys getting way faster and dialing back their volume and really working on nutrition, and see what can happen. And another thing too is, back in the day, ultra running was an old man sport, right? They called it the old man sport.
Right.
A lot of the guys were,
and it definitely was,
in their 40s and 50s. Yep. And now we're seeing these, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids just coming in and going crazy. But the scary part on my side is, are they going to be able to have longevity, or are they just going to burn out too?
Right.
At that age. So.
Yeah, I just get inspiration from like a guy like Jeff Browning. I mean, he seems to still be very competitive, but he does all the little things too. So the nutrition, the weight training, all that stuff. So, and I think that's probably what's kept him going for so long, and he's still a beast. So
yeah, when Jeff lines up at the starting line, he could be the winner.
Right.
That's
yeah.
doesn't really matter who else is in there a lot of times too, because he's got that experience and he knows how to play the game. And so you're in Rocky Raccoon as your first. Then, what happened after you did the first 100?
Well, then, like we all do, I signed up for another, and
always gets you.
Yeah.
Same day? No.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have ultra sign up. Now they do. And I always joke to people that they need to make it harder to sign up on ultra sign up, or give you a warning like, hey, you just finished the race. You got, all the endorphins. You feel good. You might not feel good like Monday. So are you sure you want to sign up? But yeah,
it should be based off of your score, your ultra sign up score. So the lower your score, like that depends on what kind of races you can run.
Right. Yeah.
I'm over here running 5Ks based on my score. So
yeah, it kind of just locks you out. Like, you're only getting a 50K this week, buddy. So
yeah, that'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
That'd be very interesting, right? Because I used to run with this guy, and he'd finish 100, and like the next 2 weeks, he'd just like be in the dumps, like, and I'm like, what's going on? He's like, well, I don't have any races signed up, and I got the runner's blues. I'm like, dude, you just ran 100-miler and you killed it. I know. I just need to sign up for something again. Later, he'd finish 100-miler, and next day while he's laying in bed, he'd sign up for another one.
Robbie, I'm sitting right here. You don't have to talk about me like that.
Right.
Hey, that runner's blues, I really think there's something to that, man. I tell you, it's like I'll finish an event, that weekend I'm all good, and then the next thing, if I don't have something on the schedule, I mean, people around here joke because I think I did 15 ultras this year, so I race a lot.
My gosh.
So
15?
Yeah, 15. I don't even want
to
sign up to show me how much I paid throughout the year, but they should probably do that too. It'd probably discourage people.
Yeah, exactly.
Give you your balance, your ending balance where you're at.
It's instead of your Spotify Wrapped, it's your ultra sign up Wrapped.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what you did this year. This is how much money you spent.
Then just in all the travel and all that,
I'll be all right. But if she
yeah,
sees
exactly.
it,
Yeah,
I'm in trouble.
That's the biggest one. You signed up for what?
Yeah,
I called her. I was running a 50K a couple weeks ago. And I called her and she's like, what are you doing? I was like, just running a 50K. She's like, what? I was like, yeah, I signed up for a race. I'm out here running it.
I always use the excuse. I always just say, I told you, we talked about this. I'm running this weekend,
Yeah.
Don't you remember? So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yep.
I'm interested in what you ran this year for your 15 event.
So started out Moab, because Moab's like a good place to get away in the winter here. So I started out with Arches. Then I did another race in southern Utah down in St. George called the Red Mountain, and then moved on. I actually didn't do any 100. I attempted 100 this year, but did not complete it. But that's another story we can talk about. Yeah, I've done a ton of 50s this year, and I'm kind of at I'm trying to think of all the ones I've done, but yeah, it's been a slew. I did the Antelope 50K last week. The 1st of October I did, which is a really good new race out here. If you're ever out here, I'd highly recommend it. It's the DC Peak 50, which is awesome because, living right here in Layton area, it basically goes through all my training area and then just kind of just makes a good loop going up Farmington Canyon, then dropping down Bonneville, and then ends up like kicking you out through Mueller Park. It's a sweet fall 50 miler. So.
Did you run into Mike when you're out there?
I did, actually. Sure did.
Awesome.
Yeah. It was nice to see him back out because I know he's kind of coming back from an injury. And he's another one that's just inspiring. He's still a fast guy, man. It's awesome.
I know I get my ass kicked by him weekly most of the time.
Yeah, I train with, I'm sure. And he's got that grit, the grit you need for this stuff. So, and he loves it. So it's awesome. Yeah, it was great to see him.
Yeah, when he told me about that, I was like, then he was telling me about the one in over in Twilla too. And, growing up in Utah and mostly mountain biking, I've been on a lot of trails out there, but, there's it's crazy how the ultra scenes kind of take off there, and it's a perfect place. I mean,
Yeah, I mean that's kind of why I can race so much. I mean, you could fill your calendar and just stay right here in Utah if you wanted to. But yeah, the Tooele actually did a race series out there. Those Ochre Mountains may be the toughest mountains out here. Yeah, some of those courses were brutal this year. There's a White Pine 55K, and I mean it's like it rivals and maybe, I hate saying this, but it may be tougher than Speed Goat.
Wow.
So yeah, and you know you get high altitude out there too. So it was a doozy this year for sure.
when I was growing up, we used to, just go mess around, and we'd go up Butterfield Canyon, then go up and over into Twilla a lot because there was hardly anyone out there. I wish that I was running then, because and the good part about it was we went there because there was no one out there just to go do whatever we were doing. But I just remember hiking around, and it was just so beautiful. And last year after the Wasatch, I went and did Deseret Peak. I don't know if you've ever done that.
I haven't, but yeah, I know what you're talking about though.
Yeah, it's a banger. It's a good one. But I was just like, dang it, I lived here all these years, and there's all this stuff I didn't explore. I just stayed right there in the Wasatch Mountains right there. And
I know, I get it. I mean, we got the Wasatch Range right there. This was really probably the second year. I did one of his races last year, but this was the first year that I really explored out there. I mean, and it's been out there forever. And even now, there isn't a whole lot of, traffic out there. I mean, there's ATVs, but that's just the world we live in now. But yeah, it's beautiful out there.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try to get back there I want to do Speedy Go again, because that's just it's a day.
Yeah,
up and down and nothing flat.
Nothing.
I'd love to go out there and do it.
Oh yeah, you got to. Right.
Yeah, it gets to the point where the downs are so steep that you get sick of running downhill, and you're waiting to start going back uphill.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you're going back uphill, and you're like, could I just get a little flat?
Yeah, there is. I mean, even there is really, I'm just trying to think of a flat section, and maybe a couple of yards, but that's about it.
I always tell people the only flat sections going through the tunnel on the conveyor belt.
Yeah, that's true. That's about it. I think you're right.
So out of your 1500s, do you go more to the side of Mountainous hundreds?
I like it all, to be honest. Lately, the past couple of years, I've been hitting like Wasatch, the Bear, kind of doing some more Mountainous. But I've done the Salt Flat, 100. So I like to hike in the mountains and get into verde areas, and then I also like to just run, do the sustained running races. So, and I even have dabbled a little bit. I did the Jackpot 100, which is, a time kind of in a 2-mile circle forever. So, I mean, I like it all.
What do you think of Jackpot?
I liked it. I mean, the year I did it, Arabipa took it over. So, I mean, I don't know if y'all have done any of their races, but they're all just outstanding. It's kind of cool excuse to get down to Vegas in February. So yeah, I loved it. But it was with those races. I mean, everything's different. You do the Wasatch, and the mountains will get you. Well, there it's just like a mental game. And seeing that you could just stop and quit anytime kind of makes it tough for those kind of races. Stuff like the Jackpot.
Yeah, I've run some looped time courses, and I ran one where it was a timed event, but there was 3 different routes. Then I can't remember the colors, but they're different colors and different lengths. One was like 4, 6, and I think 8 miles. Then it was kind of weird however you got into the thing, but you had to do those loops, and if you messed up on your loop, you DNF'd. You didn't finish. So you had to remember what your next loop was, and you can imagine
that
12 hours in, you're like, what did I just run?
Wow, that's a heck of a mental game right there.
Yeah, and it's in the wintertime, and it's right out of Colorado Springs, right by NORAD, and there's always snow, and there's been years where they've had to shovel the trail, and it's all on trail, but it's a very interesting race. Those, Justin and I talked about if you want to go and get your first ultra to do a timed event, everything, there's a lot more control, right?
Right. Yeah.
Especially on a loop course, you don't have to carry all your stuff. But like you were saying, though, you can quit at any time.
Right. Yeah. It's easy to to pull the plug. But yeah, like you said, it was awesome. Sometimes I think I get too stressed out going into an event, trying to get my drop bags or my nutrition or, when am I going to get my light or when am I going to get my jacket for the next aid station? So it's kind of nice to just show up an event. You can just, put your chair and all your nutrition there and you don't have to worry about it. So it's pretty cool that way.
Yeah. For me, I like the mountainous stuff where no one's going to come save you type of thing. Where you have to keep going, right? They're like,
right.
I'm going to drop here. And they're like, well, you'll probably get back to the finish faster than we're going to leave. So it's your choice, that kind of thing. But the mental part on those smaller looped courses this is just my opinion. Those are the ones where you want to quit, you can quit. And it makes you really tough when you do finish those. Because if we're in the middle of nowhere in the mountain and you can't quit, you have to keep on going. You have no other choice. So you're forced, no matter what, to keep going. But the ones where you have the option to quit, those are the ones that always mess with me.
Yeah. Yeah. They, it's kind of like, it's always tough. And it's probably it's like this in every race, but I just feel like once I get it, especially in like the jackpot or I did across the years this past year, I feel like once I get past 50, then I feel like, okay, I just start building on that. And it just seems like the mental aspect gets a little bit easier after that. But yeah, just when you start off one of those and you're just like, man, what am I doing? Kind of thing. So, and then you just see your car right there and, a warm bed. It's like, it's tough. But yeah, I think now, I like doing those and I'll still do those, but I think my heart now is kind of in the mountains. So
I think things like those little loop courses though, that builds like tough mental resiliency.
Right.
It's hard to, you're going to gain a lot of mental resiliency as well from like mountain courses. But like Robbie was saying, you can quit, but you're going to sit there for 8 hours. You might as well just walk until you start to feel better. And then, take some sugar and some food and get over yourself. And then, keep going. But like when you're doing the 50K I just did was a 1 mile course. So,
oh, wow.
And so, it was like, I don't know. I feel like it was something that just kind of builds a little bit of mental toughness there. Robbie and I talk about this a lot, but I do one of my training runs for 100, one of my 20-mile training runs is always on the treadmill. And it's just like, I feel like if I can do a 20-mile run on the treadmill, then I can do anything. So,
yeah.
I like to just trick my mind like that and make my mind just kind of turn off and, see where it's at and build some of that mental toughness. Because anybody, I don't say anybody, but like if you're training for a 100-miler, like you want to go out on the trails and knock out a 20-mile training run, but forcing yourself to get on a treadmill to build that mental strength, I feel like to me that's helped me like tremendously.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I have a treadmill and I thought I was gonna just run all winter on it, and I think it just collects dust, but that mental aspect is just so huge. Y'all know, like, I think that's 80% of it, just about. You got your stomach issues and some other things, but the mental, people just, if I can tell any new, ultra runner that wants to do 100, just mentally prepare yourself for just about everything too, like 1 minute you're going to feel like, oh man, I this is great. I love it. It's doing so good. And like 10 minutes down the road, you're like, I'm walking and I don't think I can make it another mile.
That first 30-minute mile, you're like, what is going on?
I know. Yeah. You got to once you get settled in you start doing trail math and you're like, dang, we're going to be here for a while.
Trail math is the worst.
I hate it sometimes. I'm like, oh, this can't be right. It's going to take me 6 hours to do 10 miles. Dang.
I'm always like to do the 4 purple pigs add to the 17 farms equal the aliens on the spaceship. That's trail math.
Yeah, for sure.
And what am I hallucinating?
I'm going to kind of put you on the spot. Out of the 1,500 you've ran, what is your favorite experience, and what course have you liked the best?
So favorite experience probably has been like finishing the Wasatch, because the first year I did it at Brighton, I called it, and you always, when you drop out, you're like always so good with it. You're like, oh, this was such a great idea. And then the next morning you're like, I could have walked. I mean, I had so much time, but at that point, no one could convince me to keep going. So to come back that next year and finish it was probably one of my, favorite moments. But oddly, my favorite course, and I think this is an underrated race, and Robbie, you'll like this, is Black Hills. That course is awesome. I love it. So, the whole town, the atmosphere, and it's just tough enough, but it's not like, Wasatch, but it'll definitely kick your butt. People need to definitely not take that course lightly, but that was my favorite course.
Justin, me and Justin met here in Rapid City, and I haven't ran Black Hills. I've been there crewing and pacing and all that stuff, but we've ran, it's an easy course for us, place for us to train.
Right.
So we had a guy, and he wanted to, he had a 50K and something, I don't remember what happened, but so we did a 50K at night on it, and we started, 30 miles from Sturgis to finish, and ran through the night. And some of the stories we have,
oh, those are the best, and the stories that happen at night on the trail, it's crazy.
Yeah, 8 to 10 people running 30 miles together in the middle of the night. That's always the best time.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
Sturgis was just starting.
Oh, wow.
So the rally was just starting when we finished.
So
we get into
that.
We're getting into I don't know if you remember the last section. It's called Fort Meade, but you're just on the other side of Sturgis. But we're coming around, and we finished, what was it, 6? I can't remember, 6 or 8 o'clock.
Yeah, 6-ish, yeah.
In the morning, and they're all out there doing donuts and being crazy and loud. And, when you run through the night and you come to the trailhead or whatever, it's just kind of whatever, right? And there was just this wild party already starting, and we're just running through the night, and I'm like, wow, that was a different experience.
Oh, it's got to be.
Robbie almost got bit.
Yeah, nothing surprised me. I've never been to Sturgis, but I've seen, videos and pictures. So that had to be quite the ending of the run.
Well, we had a bunch of up and downs. Almost stepped on a rattlesnake. There's 2 rattlesnakes on the trail.
Those are the worst.
Spider webs
out here, like when it's rattlesnake season. Those are what freaked me out. I mean, just because when you come up on them, I mean, they like blend in. And you're like, wow, there it is. So you can't see them till you're almost on top of them.
Next time you talk to Mike, ask him about our rattlesnake story.
Huh. All right, I'll have to do that.
I'll let him tell the story, because it was a good one.
Yeah, I remember you telling that on the podcast. That's a good one. Yeah, I remember that.
What year did you run Black Hills?
I think it was 2022.
Okay.
That was the first time we met Mike too. So he was out there. I think he was crewing for someone, and then I think he ended up pacing someone at the end.
What year did you run it, Justin?
21.
21. Okay. Brain fart. I had a question. And, I remember now. Okay. So, you've been running ultras for quite a few years, longer distances, all different distances. What has ultra running taught you about yourself?
That I'm mentally stronger than you think you are. I mean, even now today, like if I toe the line at 100, I'm just like, kind of like the first time you've done one, you're just like, oh my God, can I do this? Just knowing that I've got the mental fortitude to go, to accomplish it. So I'd say, mentally, it has made me way better. And you know, it just carries into, you know, your outside life, your work life, stuff like that. So
yeah, I agree. We've talked about it, you know, quite a bit, that depending on what's going on in life, I took this, you know, sobriety journey, and I'll tell my sober group that I would run 100 miles any day than trying to get sober. And I get the craziest responses, right? Because it's just a weird number that it seems so far.
right,
But, you know, us ultra runners know, like, any day out there on the trail, 100-mile, we get, you know, essentially 2 days of freedom from whatever. And they can't understand that because they're like, but you're running. It's like, there's a lot of walking involved and whatever else.
right,
But I get to turn off from whatever's going on in life and just put one foot in front of the other. That's my escape, safe place, whatever we want to say. And that's one thing it's really taught me is go out there, do hard shit. Then when you're going through life, it's like, this isn't so bad or whatever. But then you can always fall back on, like, you know, I would rather be out on the trail showing myself who I really am. It could be a training run, race, doesn't matter, right? Venture,
right,
any of that. And, you know, a lot of people in the world now are just get put in their little silo where they only worry about certain things, where we can use it to detach, but it's also become a part of who we are, which that can be a little scary road too, is, you know,
sure,
that other side. You know, Justin and I have talked about this multiple times, is like, if we could tell people or trap it in a little bottle and give people what we feel like at mile 80 and let them open them and experience that, you know, how it could change their outlook on life or what we do. But as you know, probably there's like no way to explain what you're going through at mile 80 or 90 and 100 miles.
yeah. And unless you're there or your pacer's there, they don't know. So, and I agree. I think trail running could save a lot of the world's problems for sure if everybody got a little dose of it. I mean, I'm glad they don't, because it'd make the trails way too crowded, but it is, it's a great outlet. One that is just, it's part of my life now. And, you know, I just feel, you know, privileged and lucky that it, you know, I can do it. It's great. Wouldn't want to do anything else. I mean, I do cycle some too, but there's just nothing like getting out on the trail, just throwing your shoes on. I mean, you could take your shoes anywhere. That's what's so awesome about it too, and just go out the door. You know, it's low key. It's easy to get out the door. So
Yeah, I agree.
easier. I can't say it's easy, because sometimes, I mean, we all been there where the hardest part is just getting out the door, just getting on the trail. Once you're there, you're just like, okay, glad I made it, because today will be a good day. So
I know sometimes it's like, you know, putting your shoes on, and if you got a drive or whatever, it's like, if I could just flip the switch and just be standing on the trail and moving already, it'd be so much easier.
yeah, maybe they'll come up with something where we could do that one of these days. Just teleport us to the trail. I'm going to the trail. Push the button. You're there.
Elon, start working on that for us.
Please. Yes.
Trail transport. What kind of gear do you use, James?
So if we want to talk about shoes, I don't know if we have enough time, because it seems like this year I just have not been able to find a replacement for my favorite shoe. Was the Speed Go, and it seems like the 5s were dud. The 6s, I'm trying. I want to love them, you know, but I'm a little, I haven't ran any like super long distance in them. So my go-to gear right now is 2s, the Nike Zigamaga 2s. Those are, I think, the best thing for me right now. They're, you know, the midsole is just awesome. And then I always have my Solomon pack. So those things are great. Best thing ever invented, I think.
Yeah. Well, you know, we ask this gear question a lot, and we get a lot of Solomon packs, and we get some other ones. And, you know, I always like to tell people it's whatever fits you best.
Right.
We can all get caught up in brands, but I know for me, once I put that Solomon vest on, it was like, okay, I found something. It may change in a few years.
Yeah, it's like a security blanket with me. I mean, I just go on, even on a short run, seems like I'm always putting it on, you know, so. And then for the watch.
It's emotional support vest.
Yeah, exactly. I've always been a Garmin guy, but this year I went to the Corso and I just love it. That battery life, I mean, I don't think you can kill it. So, yeah, that that's my go-to.
The other question we always ask our guest is, we're trying to grow the network and get people's stories out there. Who's someone from your network that we should have on our podcast?
I would recommend two people. One is a good training buddy of mine, Jeff Galloway. I think he would be great because he's also a hunter. So you got that hunter side. He's got some great stories, and then, you know, he's done the Wasatch twice, the bear. So I mean, he's lived here his whole life. He gets up in the mountains. And then I didn't mention that I went to UTMB this year. Finally went out there, unsuccessful, but a friend of mine ran it, and I think it'd be a great podcast if y'all had him on. Brian Corey. He, you know, tell his story of finishing UTMB. Is pretty remarkable to go out there. And I, you know, encourage anybody to go out and just, if they get a chance, to go run that race. So I'll be back one of these years. But yeah, those are the two people I would suggest.
We'll definitely have to get them on.
Cool.
James, we'll give you some time to shout out whoever you want. If you're on social media, where people can follow you, Strava, people can follow your journey, or
you know, I'm mainly on Strava and Instagram. I mean, Strava, you can just find me under James Howton, and then on Instagram, I'm JR Rider 7.
Awesome. This was a great conversation, and thank you for your time.
I really appreciate y'all guys having me on.
For sure.